So well friends, good afternoon to you all. We are to go back to the field of research again today. In our last discussion, we have discussion on questionnaire. Means we started discussing about tests and tools of research, and we discussed about questionnaire and the importance of questionnaire, the concept of questionnaire, the process of preparation of questionnaire, everything else we had discussed or we discussed in our last class. And today we are to discuss about interview schedule, which has also special importance in the field of research. An interview schedule is basically used as data gathering tool or for the collection of necessary research data. We can depend on interview schedule too. Questionnaire, when we are to define, we certainly know that basically questionnaire means the accumulated form of the different questions in the form of items which are basically selected by analyzing or by interpreting necessary related research review. Means as per the speciality of your research problem, you are to review research literature on the findings which you will get. Means in the form of findings, the other researchers which they basically place or they report in their research report, you are to see the findings, and the findings are to be or depending on the findings you are to select the questions for the questionnaire or for the preparation of your questionnaire. Anyway, questionnaire is nothing but it is an accumulation of different questions basically selected depending on the research finding by analyzing the research review related to the subject area of a particular researcher in the form of item. And now today we are to discuss about the interview schedule, which has also special importance not only in the field of research but in all other areas or in our day-to-day life. In different situations we are to face interview, and we are to understand what does it mean and what does interview schedule basically indicates. Let us see friends, the term interview is originated from the French word interview. Means this is a French term and the term is interview, where from the term interview has been originated. Interview means, what does it mean? An occasion on which a journalist basically or broadcaster puts a series of questions to a person. In other sense, it is a spoken examination of an applicant for a job or college place. Means once coming out from the paradigm or parameter of research, if you come to day-to-day life, then what does it mean? Means applicant interview is a spoken examination of an applicant for a job, any place or any place, maybe college place or other places. Let us go back to the next slide. The person who takes, we are to understand, you see, once we are to study interview or we are to understand interview, then we are to understand two most important terms. One is interviewer, another is interviewee. Let us see, the person who takes an interview is called an interviewer or known as interviewer, and the person who gives the interview is known or called as interviewee. So you see, person who takes the interview, he or she is known as interviewer. The person who faces the interview, he or she is known as interviewee. It is one of the most frequently used, generally used techniques for collecting and obtaining required information from people or the research sample. From people means information from people or from research sample, and sample, as you understand, is the miniature representation of the whole of the totality, small part of a big whole. And we basically in research, we basically study sample, means we collect information or data from sample and we speak about the whole, means the population, means we generalize our findings. It is a two-way process. What interview is a two-way process of gathering required information, where face-to-face contact between the interviewer who takes the interview and the interviewee who gives the interview is made. Means face-to-face sitting arrangement has special importance in interview schedule. Once we follow interview schedule, or in interview, face-to-face sitting has special importance, and two persons must be there. One is in the form of interviewer, another is the person who is well known as interviewee. He first asks the questions and the second gives the replies of all the questions which are being asked to him or her. Two or more persons sit face to face in a particular place or in a comfortable situation, and one who is called the interviewer asks questions and the other who is called the interviewee gives the answers of the questions that are put to him or her, you see, keeping some intention for the collection of data or for knowing different, you see, for knowing about the personality parameter of the concerned person, means of the interviewee. Let us go to the next slide. An interview helps to what? How an interview helps us? We have to know so much well. An interview helps to collect direct information regarding a particular problem or situation or different events. It is a purposeful activity because in interview, two persons face-to-face situation sit all together, you say, and one puts question, another gives the replies. Certain information with the help of verbal communication, means expression, is collected by the help of interviewee, by the help of interview. Factual information, opinions, attitudes, and reasons for particular situation, event, phenomenon, behavior and problem can be known from the respondents or the interviewees by the interviewer, and all such information may be, by analyzing the information, means in the information which are collected in the form of resource data, the interviewer may, you see, go to the, particularly in the field of research, go to his finding, you see, finding sector or go to his finding position. Let us go back to the next slide. Interviews are categorized. Basically, interviews are categorized in two categories. Means there are two types of interviews are there. One is structured or standardized interview, and the another is non-structured or unstructured and non-standardized interview. First one is structured or standardized interview. Second one is non-structured or unstructured or, you see, unstandardized interview. And these are two types of interviews. With the help of these two types of interviews, we basically collect research information, and the interviewer, by putting different questions, keeping contact or keeping link with the research problem area, he or she collects different necessary data, and you see those data are analyzed and interpreted, and the researcher basically goes to the finding area, goes to the finding position or finding situation. These two means structured or standardized interview as well as unstructured or non-standard interview. Let us know or discuss in detail about these two types or categories of interview. These types are determined on the basis of preparation to take an interview. Means we have to study the nature, we have to study the situation, we have to study the problem area. Thence, for determining the nature, we have to determine whether structured or standardized interview is to be organized, or unstructured or non-structured or non-standardized interview is to be organized. As a face-to-face conversation technique of research tool before the interview, the interviewer is to make a preparation. Means there is the necessity of preparation for the interviewer, because in face-to-face conversation situation, the interviewer is to put question to the interviewee, and the interviewee is to give the reply, and the analyzing or the replies should be recorded as the research, as the necessary information or necessary data. He or she is to prepare a list of questions or items prior to the interview practically takes place. Prior to the interview practically takes place. This should be takes place. And you see this list. Certainly you come to know that at the time of preparing the questionnaire, the researcher is to see or study or analyze the, you say, related research literature in the form of research review. And like that, here also the interviewer is to prepare a list of questions, and the list of all the questions are to be placed in a slip of paper, and this slip of paper which contains the selected list of questions is basically or very simply known or defined as interview schedule. So friends, for knowing or understanding or explaining the concept of interview schedule, we are to understand this, that the list we are to the interviewer is to prepare a list of questions, and the questions are to be included in a slip of paper, and the slip of paper which contains or includes the set of questions which are predetermined by the interviewer is basically known as interview schedule. And this term schedule is basically originated from the Latin term schedula, and this schedula means basically slip of paper, and the slip of paper which contains the predetermined set of questions is known as or defined as interview schedule, which is basically used for the collection of necessary information in the form of research data in selective way, in selective situation. Let us go back to the next slide. Schedule means a plan for carrying out something, giving list of tended events and items. In other sense, it means a timetable, just like examination schedule. Interview schedule means the list of items or questions, data to be asked by the interviewer to the interviewee in case-to-case conversation. Interview is a very systematic process where verbal communication has special significance, because verbally the interviewer is to put questions and the interview is to give all the replies of different questions which are put to him or her by the interviewer. The researcher or the interviewer is to prepare himself or herself very systematically to elicit or draw out the expected responses from the respondent or the interviewee or interviewees. And it depends on the intellectual maturity of the interviewer, because you are to take the replies or take out the replies of all the questions from the interviewee, and it depends on your intellectual maturity as well as technical expertise. Thus, a structured interview is an interview where there is a well-prepared and written list of questions or items, and the written list of questions or items or the piece of paper or the pieces of paper are basically in one term or basically defined as interview schedule, or in two terms known as interview schedule. Let us go back to the next slide. Such questions or items are systematically following a well-organized order or sequence selected and written. How questions are to be selected? Haphazardly, you never can select the question. There should be item chronological order is to be followed, and system is to be followed. By following this system, we are to use a select, or we are to include the questions in the form of item in the slip of paper here in the interview schedule. Just like in questionnaire 2, depending or analyzing the research data in the form of review. By analyzing the research review and coming or studying or scrutinizing the findings which the earlier researchers have reported in their research report, you are to put question depending on the findings on the question. You see which are put or which are included in the questionnaire are known as item, and that's why questionnaire is basically the accumulation of different questions in the form of item selected from by analyzing research review, means particularly by analyzing the findings which are being reported in different research and we do, or which is basically done as you see literature review or literature analysis. In such an interview, the interviewer neither has any liberty to alter any questions or items, nor can he or she disorder the order of the questions or items. What does in structured interview? What happens? Neither the interviewer can sense the sequence of the questions, nor he or she can disorder the sequence of the questions. Alteration and desequencing have no place in structured interview. Once the interview is applied in the form of structured and standardized interview, then all the items are to be sequenced wise placed in order-wise placed in the slip of paper or the piece of paper, and the interviewer does not have any authority or liberty to, break the sequence of all the questions or order of the questions. Alteration, because alteration and desequencing have no place here in structured interview. Parallel to this, when we come to the non-structured or unstructured interview, the responses from the structured interview are in some cases specified or fixed. That is, the researcher or the interviewer knows the responses beforehand. You know what will be the response or responses just after asking the question from the interviewee. Because in structured interview, when sequence is maintained for the inclusion of all the questions or items, or order is maintained for the inclusion of different questions, only the sequence never can be, the sequence or the order never can be disordered in structured interview. Only the interviewer can get, or he or she knows the replies of the question which are the items which are to be put to the interviewee beforehand. In such interviewee, most of the questions or items are closed-ended questions or items. There is no, the open-ended questions are not put to, or not included in the, interview schedule. Closed-ended means yes or no, either yes or no, or right or wrong. Like this, the interviewer is to give the reply. So here, questions are, or the items are included in closed-ended form, in closed-ended question or items form. Let us go back to the next one. On the other hand, in an unstructured interview, there is no fixed list of question or items. There is no fixed list. Interview is open. The researcher or the interviewer has the liberty to take decision of the questions and order or sequence of the question. He or she can do it depending on the situation and considering the demand of the data or the information which he or she is to collect from the interviewee. Liberty and flexibility are the specialties of unstructured interviews. From the side of the respondents, that is interviewees, no specified or fixed responses are expected. They too are free to respond as they like. Means items are not closed-ended, open-ended questions are asked, and the researcher is totally free. There is liberty, means the interviewer has the liberty, and the interviewee also do have the liberty to give the reply whatever he or she likes to give or express. The questions or items of structured and unstructured interview are open-ended questions or items where the choice and liberty of the respondents are well looked after, and means open-ended questions are put to the interviewee and they give the reply, or he or she gives the reply, and depending on the reply, the researcher means the interviewer, not everything else in the for satisfaction or for fulfilling the demand of this necessary research data collection purpose. Let us go back to the next one. Depending on the purpose, nature and scope, an interview may be classified as given below. Again, we can classify the interview like this. Individual to individual. In such interview situation, one interviewer interviews another person, that is the interviewee. In such interview situation, means individual to individual, here in such interview situation, one interviewer interviews another person, that is the interviewee. Next, individual to group. In such situation, one interviewer interviews a group of people, that is the interviewees or the respondents. Numbers are many, but interviewer is only one. Individual to group interview. One version of such an interview is called as focus group discussion. FGD group is also known as individual to group interview, where an interviewer puts question to many group of persons or group of interviewees. And thenceforth, coming to the C group of individuals, group to individuals, this is also one category, means group to individual is also here, means one group of interviewer, particularly means group to individual. A group of interviewer puts questions by sitting all together to a particular person or one person, group to individuals. In such interview situation, one group of interviewers, numbers will be many, interviewer will be many, and means interviewers interviews an individual or person. One group, many members will put question to a particular person. Suppose like in case of particularly when for different types of job you are to appear, then you will see this situation. Group of interviewer will be there, and you will be the only person who is to give the replies. Means you will be the only person in the form of interviewee seat in the room. Next, group to group. In such situation, group of people will put question to a group of interviewees. Group of interviewers, many numbers will put question to many. Means in such interview situation, one group of interviewers interview another group. Here more interviewers interview more respondents. Means both of the groups are numbers are many. So interview is one of the most important data gathering tools. It helps the researcher to collect multidimensional information, different informations. This research tool helps to collect detailed and in-depth information for different purposes. But for this, or to use this tool in a successful manner, special training to learn the skill of a good interviewer has special importance. Friends, it is not so much easy to be an interviewer. At the same time, it is not so much easy to be an interviewee. And that's why expertise and maturity, intellectual maturity, these do have special importance for becoming a successful interviewer. Let us go back to the next one. The interviewer should maintain friendly relationship with the interviewees for getting all necessary information in the form of data. The interviewer should know the techniques of keeping the respondent or interviewees at ease to get maximum result. For getting maximum result, situation should not be burdensome. Situation should be relaxed. Situation should be there so that the respondents can very much the respondent get so much easy. Respondent gets so much easy to give all the replies or feel free to give the replies of all the questions which are put to him or her by the interviewer. The interviewer should know the techniques of keeping the respondent or the interviewees at ease to get maximum result. Success of interview basically depends on the friendly manner of the interviewers. If systematically and psychologically treating all the factors and the persons and interview is taken place, maximum information for the purpose of research can be collected with the help of interview. So friends, interview schedule is very easy research data gathering tool, but for becoming successful for the application of interview schedule for the collection of necessary research data, the interviewer must be or should have intellectual maturity. At the same time, he or she must have technical expertise, because in relaxed situation, if he or she can sit before the interviewee, and if he or she can become successful in creating relaxed situation, then he or she can get all necessary information in the form of research data. So thank you so much for today. Means questionnaire, you have come to know how you can apply questionnaire for the collection of research data once you follow or depend on quantitative research methodology or quantitative research method or descriptive survey research. And here in next time we are to discuss about opinioneer or attitude scale, which has also special importance in research. And opinioneer or attitude scale has basically opinioneer or attitude scale is used for the collection of necessary research data in some specific situation. So friends, in quantitative research, particularly in descriptive survey research, for the collection of research data, either questionnaire or interview schedule, we can apply as data gathering research tool, and that's why we are to know so much well, or our knowledge concerning to questionnaire on the process of preparation of questionnaire. At the same time, interview schedule means as well as the technique for the preparation of interview schedule must be so much clear, and I hope by studying all these slides or information, certainly you will be able to understand the concept of questionnaire, and certainly you will come to know how to prepare questionnaire. Thenceforth you will understand the concept of interview schedule, and you will come to know or certainly how to prepare interview schedule. And thenceforth in the next class we are to discuss about opinioneer or attitude scale, which is special importance in the field of research. Thank you so much for today. You study well. Thank you.